The next company kind of saved this conference. Let me explain you why. When we launched it, like 6 weeks, not 6 weeks, but 4 weeks ago, we thought that we would be a few hundred applications on the website. But after like 24 hours, we had more than 1,000, and in total, we had like 1,200 applications, and we had to close the registration on the website. We didn't think, to be honest, we didn't think how we would select all of you guys. And so there was no way that we would review all those profiles manually. So what we did was to build a small AI, basically using Linkup to deep research all of you. And you will not like that, but basically we gave you a score. So we knew how to rank you. Maybe it should be, on your badge, number 1, number 2. So some people were pissed off because, I mean, obviously it's not perfect. The scoring is not perfect. The search is not perfect, but it was actually pretty good. And we kind of managed to finish the review manually at the end. So all of that to say, please welcome Phil from Linkup, who came straight from the US, from New York, just for you guys. So please welcome Phil.
So thank you, Tanguy, for the slightly creepy introduction. Yeah, seriously, thank you for the invitation. Very happy to be here. I'm Phil. I'm one of the co-founders of Linkup. We do web search for AIs. And can I have like the, yeah. So what I wanted to do today is sort of like explain how and why we built Linkup, starting 2 years ago, and sort of like the entrepreneurship journey that that we had so far. And so maybe like bringing us back to 2 years ago. 2 years ago was a time where AI models and agents were very different than today. And one of the key things is that LLMs at the time were not accessing the internet. So what I mean by that is that all the information that, LLMs are like you and I, essentially. They are very smart. They have a lot of knowledge. And this knowledge is pretty much like based on the training data that they were trained on. And so, the LLM training process takes like a few months. And at the end, the model is packaged. And then it's released to the world. And the model is going to be aware of everything that happened until the end of the training. And then after that, it's sort of like if they turn on airplane mode and didn't have access to the outside world. So very capable, but if you ask a model a question about something that happened after you landed the plane, it won't be able to answer. But on the other hand, agents need to be aware of the outside world. If you build an agent in the financial industry, like for example, like a financial analyst agent, it needs to be able to get a lot of information about a potential company they want to invest in. Or if you're doing like Tanguy and you want to creep out on some folks, you need to be able to get information on those people. And so agents need to access the internet to get some information, some fresh data. And so before Linkup existed or our competition existed, we had a few chats with folks building at the application layer of AI, and the way they were trying to essentially trying to use human-made or like products designed for human use to pipe in internet data into the agent. And so a friend of mine was building an application in the like agentic finance industry and trying to get information on companies. And to sort of like inform his agent, he had an LLM that was generating Google-style queries, so like a few keywords. And then he was filling these queries into SERP APIs. So for those who don't know, SERP APIs is essentially pretty like shady gray area companies that are scraping Google. And then he would get like a few links of relevant, like websites, and he would scrape each of these websites. So like enter the website, scrape the entire content of a page, and then he would clean up the page, HTML into like actual clean content, and then he would chunk all of that into chunks of information and re-rank all that and take the most relevant data points and fuel that into his agent. Obviously very cumbersome, very expensive, very slow, but it was working well enough for him to have this in production. And that was sort of the moment we realized that we had to build something that was better than that, essentially build something that was sort of like what Google was for humans, we wanted to build that for agents. And so we had to rebuild web search from the ground up. And the first realization was the needs of agents are very different than the needs of humans when it comes to web search. The biggest thing is that humans look for web pages. And so that's why when you go on Google, you have a list of web pages. You can click and go and visit the page. When actually agents, what they look for is trusted data. They don't care about visiting a web page. They care about just getting the raw trusted data. And obviously, lots of differences that are a bit more nuanced, around as an agent, you don't care about the look and feel of the website. You don't care if the web page is sexy. Obviously, you don't care about the SEO. You might not care about the entire breadth of the craziness that you have on the internet. The internet is a crazy place. And so we had to rebuild the entire thing from ground up, and this is what we built. We have right now an API that lets agents search with natural language, and we return raw content. So how did we do that? Actually, it was a pretty big thing. We actually built the entire thing. It took us a year and a half pretty much to have something that worked pretty well. So how do you build a web index for AI agents? The first thing you have to do is discover the web. So you have to have crawlers. So these are essentially bots that are going to discover pages of the page. So you go on the page, you look at the content of the page, including all the different links to different pages, and then you can search page by page the entire internet. And so this is quite complex, not because folding a link is complex, but just because of the sheer number of pages you have on the internet. So we're talking about billions and billions of pages. And so actually a lot of work here is not discovering pages, it's mostly thinking about what not to scrape, because you want to prioritize the pages that are going to be increasing value or helping you give better answers to your users, and deprioritize the SEO, the AI-generated content, or anything that is not really relevant to what you're doing. So then you have a list of pages, and then what you have to do next is you have to sort of understand what is the content. And this is what sort of sets us apart from other players in the industry. We don't index web pages, we index the informations that are on the pages. We call this atomic indexing. And essentially the idea is that we're going to identify the different atoms of information that are on the page, and we're going to generate one embedding for each of these atoms of information. So, and on one page you can have sometimes 10 or even 100 different atoms of information if the page is very rich. And so we embed all of that. So embeddings are essentially mathematical representations of the content that capture the semantics of what's on a web page. And that helps us be essentially 10 to 100x more granular compared to the competition, essentially. There's a lot of ML and AI stuff that we do as well to generate new signals to help in the ranking. At the moment that we retrieve the content, you want to be able to do this in the most relevant way to have the highest precision, the highest recall, and the lowest latency for your agents. So that essentially gives you a web index where you can ask questions, get a ranked list of atoms of information. So how do we expose that to agents? Because agents have very different needs, and you've seen today very different styles of agents. We had a very cool demos on voice AI. In voice AI, you want to have very low latency because it's very painful to wait for someone when you're on the phone. And so you need to have very low latency answers. And so we have one of our APIs that is the fast API that is essentially the most accurate sub-second web search API out there. And then we have essentially a range of different APIs that are at the efficiency thresholds, efficiency frontier of the quality latency trade-off. all the way to the deep researcher that is topping the charts and state-of-the-art for deep research. And there you can wait like half an hour to get like the most comprehensive response you can get. We also have different APIs that are great at doing lists, that are great at extracting content from web pages, that are great at writing its own code to extract at very high scale a lot of content from the internet. And all of that is, in the way we build the company, we think about like we talk to the users every day, and we think about, okay, how can we build better tools to help you get the data you need from the internet? And the product strategy of Linkup is investing a lot in this web index, and then leveraging it as much as we can through these different endpoints so that we can get the most out of it, because it's very expensive to build a web index. It's very expensive to refresh and keep it fresh. Like, you have to rescrape pages like continuously. But then it's very cheap to use it. So you have like a breaking point where if you use the index enough, you can start making a lot of money. But if you don't, you lose a lot of money. So I mentioned we're state-of-the-art on fast search, but also on deep search. You've seen a lot of benchmarks, so I don't think it's super interesting. What is super cool is what people do with our product. And I wanted to highlight one company that I was in SF last week, and I talked to one of our users. This company is called Polsia. I don't know if some of you guys know Polsia. It's an autonomous company, essentially. It's a company that helps people run their company autonomously. So let's say you have like a website where you do e-commerce. You plug Polsia, and Polsia is going to autonomously improve your product, but also drive your sales, drive your marketing, drive your strategy. And to do that, obviously, it needs to have like a lot of information about you, but also about your competition, about the entire world. And so it leverages Linkup to get all that information from the internet. It's actually a very cool product, so you guys should go check it out. That is one example. We also sell to like a pretty wide range of companies, like from very like AI intense company, like AI labs like Cohere, that use us for their deep researcher, all the way to like industrial companies like SNCF, like social media companies like Ammo. They power some of their consumer experiences through Linkup. Or like Artisan AI, they have like agentic sales, like they have Ava, which is like an AI SDR that is getting through Linkup information about prospects to do outreach autonomously. So you can see a very wide range of AI agents, and our thesis is that this is just going to increase. Right now, like we're still at the infancy, and I know this group is like very well informed about AI agents, and we think it's pretty much everywhere. But like if you get out of this like small bubble, it's just the beginning. And if you fast forward a few years, we'll also like flip the switch where agents are not going to be like the exception, but are going to become the norm, and what I like to call like the player one of the internet. Right now, like we have around 15 billion queries being made like every day by humans on the internet. There's the number of queries being made by humans is going to be much bigger pretty quickly. And so in that context, like, and I'll leave you guys on this note, like, when I think about the mission of my company and what we're trying to do, we're trying to make sure that all these agents are well informed. And we had like one very cool slide earlier today presented by this woman from Anthropic that was essentially showing the complexity of tasks that agents are able to make independently, autonomously, and it was increasing in length. And I think right now we can like perform tasks that last for like 16 hours, but I think very quickly this time horizon is going to explode, and you'll have AI agents that are going to work autonomously, continuously, and they're going to take actions that are going to have more and more impact on us, on humans. And I want to make sure that when these agents take actions that are going to impact us, that these are actions that are taken knowingly of all the facts. And so this is Linkup's mission. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Phil.